Hi, I'm Gerald Crow. We get a lot of questions from our students, and I'm so glad we do because that gives me an opportunity to help you and to help you understand how to improve your skills in painting. Many of you know we offer lessons in acrylics, water mixable oils, and traditional oils. So today's special question comes from where, Joe?
Frank from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Wow. And what's the question?
Well, the question is, he's got some issues. He just started your basic techniques of acrylics, which he loves. And for many years, he's been your student painting with oils. But unfortunately, they just moved into an apartment complex, and the smell with his wife's allergies is really getting bad, so he switched to acrylics. Now, his issue is, when he's painting mountains, he's so used to using the knife in oils, he's having a really tough time with acrylics. Can you give him any advice on how to do mountains with acrylics?
All right, well, what I'd like to do is go over a little bit how I like to approach acrylic mountain. And by the way, this is a very common issue that happens. We get older, some of our allergies create. Some of them involve other people, or we change our living quarters and there's not enough ventilation. And so there are two types of mediums we can go to. Acrylic is certainly one of them. Now, what's also nice is going to water mixable oils, because water mixable oils paint exactly like traditional oils. The difference is the mediums we use, which is where most of the smells are. Now, oil paints themselves do have some smells to it, and it's because of the linseed and other types of oils that are put into the paint. So you may want to consider water mixable oils, but since you're dealing with acrylics, let's talk about acrylic. So the first thing I like to do is go down to the palette and show you how to load up the brush, and then we'll shape, scrape, smooth, and snow and shadow light our mountain. So let's get started. Most people are very used to me using a palette knife in order to paint the mountain. But today we're going to use an angular brush. Now I have three different sizes here. Two of them are with synthetic hairs and one is with badger. It's just a matter of which size works best for you and which one you're most comfortable with. I like using short-handled ones with acrylic, and then of course I've got the big, almost 1 inch wide, just for a lot of territory painting right to begin with. Now, one of the things that I'm going to constantly remind you of, I've got a little bit of water here, and then right over here I've got some water mixable, not water mixable, but acrylic flow improver. Now right here is a spray bottle which has fine mist, and that's what's so important. Look at this. When you spray, see that fine? I don't know if you see it. I'll try to do it a couple of times so you can see it. Now with acrylics, it's so important to keep your paint wet. What I do is put a paper towel down here that's absolutely soaked with water. In fact, if you see my finger, see I'm pressing and the water coming up right out of there, put your paint on top of that, and then right there. I can keep my paints going for 2 days this way. And I also will frequently put them into a stay wet palette. You find them at any art store, any online art store, any brick and mortar art store. Okay, so make sure you spray your paints about every 10 or 15 minutes. So the very first thing I want to do, the colors I have are blue, titanium white, and Payne's gray. We're going to use Payne's gray as our basic mountain mix. Okay, so we'll come on up here and we'll shape our mountain. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just go ahead and put in a little shape of a mountain right in there. Okay, maybe we'll widen this guy a little bit just to give it some character, and that's pretty much it. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead with my brush. So I'm just going to take a paper towel here and wipe out this brush. Now sometimes it's better to use a bristle brush, but let's try this synthetic. See this? We're going to go ahead and just push this right there in the bottom. I'm just getting a little bit of paint. If it's starting to dry a little bit on you, and it does here under the studio light, so we'll just grab a little more paint right there. See that? You just don't want a solid line, so you want a graduation of colors. There we go. All right, that's all we want. Now, I'm going to use the larger synthetic angled brush, okay? First thing to do is just go ahead right into the paint, see, just like that. And what we want to do is get a little bit right on the tip. Now, I see a lot of people go ahead and load the paint all the way up to the metal ferrule. That's not necessary because the brush never touches that high onto the canvas. So let's go on up here. Okay, so let's put the light coming onto the left side. Okay, so we have our mountain right here, and I'm just going to use a steady stick here, and see this angle? It's perfect for going along the side of the mountain. So all I'm going to do, see that? Is just little short dashes, and just like that. All right, dash here, dash there. They're just very little short strokes. As you come down the mountain, think about, okay, what is the shape of that mountain? Because you don't want this to be a straight line. That would be boring. So we'll just go ahead and just do a lot of little strokes. Now, let's go reload. You want to make sure that you keep just the edge of your paint, or the paint on the edge, and you want to make sure that you're frequently checking your work to make absolutely sure that you're not out of paint, because in order to paint, you must first have paint. See that? It's starting to get a little dull. That means that we didn't have. See how I'm changing the angle so I can just walk this right on down. There we go. Now, the thing to remember, okay, especially if you've been an oil painter, is that acrylics dry dark. So no matter how bright we've got this here, it's going to dry darker. So get used to the fact that with acrylics, you are going to be painting over a couple of times your brighter colors. But you kind of got to let it dry first. Let's move over to the left mountain. All right, I just put my hand up here, and this one now is coming down, so I'll use only part of that brush. See that? So you don't have to use the whole width of the brush. You got to follow the shape of your mountain. After all, you spent quite a bit of time. See, just the edge. Or you can go to a smaller brush. It doesn't quite matter. See that? Now, look here. See how dark that's drawing? This is going to go dark too. All right, let's go ahead and just give it a crooked looking edge there. See how easy that is? It's so different from a knife, yet it works so nice with acrylics. Okay, now I think what I'm going to do, this is just an instant decision, is I'm going to go ahead and give me a nice little snow peak mountain right there. See that? It's kind of like poking his head right up there. Okay, now let's go to the shadow light color. When we paint the shadow light color, what we want to do, add a little bit of that blue. See, I don't need to change the color of my brush. Now, one thing you may want to do is keep a little painting knife close by so you can grab some paint. Now, that's been a few minutes. I just felt something start to dry up a little bit. So make sure about every 5 to 10 minutes you're spraying your paint. Otherwise, the tops will dry, and you don't want that. The bottoms are going to stay wet because of this paper towel that's quite wet. Okay, so now I want a really light blue color, and then I'm going to take a little bit of the Payne's Gray, just so it's a different color than the sky. Maybe a little more. There's no formula. It's whenever you like the color, then you're ready to go paint it for shadow light. Okay, so let's come back to our first mountain, okay? And I'll just place my hand right here. And see, Just a little bit of that. Now, this is easier sometimes to get the shape of the mountains than with that knife, because we have a tendency to stay away from the edge. But with a brush and using this, you can go ahead and see exactly where it is. Now remember, this is going, and I can come over and then down. See how I make that? Just a couple strokes over and then down. Over, down. Maybe just down here. See that? That's all there is to painting mountains with acrylics. Now let's go over to our left side. Reposition our hand and take the easy one. I remember watching a movie on Minnesota Fast one, and he was being interviewed by someone who says, how do you know which shot to take? Do you look for the one that's just how do you decide? He says, you know, son, there ain't no secret to it. You always take the easiest shot there is. No matter what it is, just learn. Now I can also come along here, because this is easier, just like that. And then I can stretch it out just a little bit. Alright, now let's go wash our brush. So I've got some water over here. And clean that brush out. The reason I want to clean it is I want to go to a brighter color. So all I have to do. Now I suggest while you're painting, you might want to keep a little bigger base there, so you can just store the paint brushes right in there while you're painting. Alright, let's go back. We want to lighten up our highlights. Okay, so let's head on back to the canvas. Alright. Now here is where you get a second look at what you've done. See that edge is out there, so I'll just go ahead. See that? See how much brighter that is? Oh, this works so nice because you now are not worried about the shape anymore. It's just like, where should the light be hitting? Where do I feel it should be? See, I got this there, so I'll just say, all right. It's only in the top. Now I can come back and redo that, and redo that. Okay, same thing over here. See, it doesn't take much paint. Doesn't take much time. All right. Well, Bill, I hope you've enjoyed this little lesson today. And by all means, you and your wife continue having fun there in Albuquerque, I guess it was, Joe?
Yep, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah, I was there once. I think it was 40 years ago. Nice place, I remember that. So, I hope you've enjoyed this tip. Now, I'd like to give you a couple of pointers again. Number one, we love answering questions. So if you've got a question, whether it's about water mixable oils, about oil painting, about acrylics, go ahead and send it to us. And we got a special gift we'll send right out to you. I also want to invite you to go over to my website, darylcrow.com, and we've got even more tips and questions that we have already answered. We, of course, got our whole line of videos there that you can take a look at, see if there's any that you want to do. I'm Daryl Crow, and yes, you can paint.